Hello and welcome. Alicia Yusuf here with your astrology insights for the 11th until the 24th of December. Yep, we're crawling towards the end of the year now. And for those who celebrate Christmas, this bumps us right up against Christmas Eve. We've got some pretty interesting transits happening over the next fortnight between Venus conjunctions to Pluto, right as it stations to go retrograde. We also have a beautiful Gemini full moon to enjoy, the solstice starting pretty quickly afterwards, and then the final, for this year at least, of the Saturn squares to Uranus happening on Christmas Eve. So let's dive in. So as you can see here, we've got the beautiful gentle moon in Pisces starting to kick off the weekend for us here. Especially remember that I'm in Brisbane, or just north of Brisbane, Australia. So the timings are correct for where I am. So you might need to adjust wherever you are in the world. It might be the day behind. Or, this is happening on the Friday for you, for example, in most of the world. So this is the last time the moon will travel through Pisces without Jupiter being in there. So I think this will give us a chance to think about, okay, what's being focused on over the next few days? Where will I bring in some opportunities over the beginning of 2022? Where will the juice really come in and the opportunity to grow and feel uplifted? So do enjoy this very dreamy energy. And it might not be the best for being planned and getting things done, but it's fantastic for just floating away, whatever that looks like, if it's time at the beach or daydreaming in the garden, or literally escaping with some Netflix or boozy lunch with friends. So from here, really our first major aspect isn't until tomorrow, Sunday. And Sunday is a packed day. There is so much going on. So very early Sunday morning, and we may feel this Saturday in much of the world, and even Saturday night for us here in Australia. We've got Venus here conjuncting Pluto, and it's going to happen right. Venus is almost stopped still in the sky at the moment, so won't move much further than this degree here. And Venus with Pluto is such a core part of the upcoming Venus retrograde, and it's a lot about claiming power in the self and our power in relationships. Venus rules beauty, it rules love, it rules how we connect, how we bind with things, and how we attract things to us. And Venus in this position is the evening star, kind of like that innocent, naive maiden who doesn't know that much about the world and goes into love all starry-eyed. And I'm thinking, and I'm going to talk about the whole Venus retrograde, because I don't think you can disentangle this. So today we have Venus conjunct Pluto. Venus stations to go retrograde on the 19th here in Australia. It's the 19th for the whole world. The actual station's 8:35 p.m. here in Australia. And then we have a final Venus conjunction to Pluto after it goes retrograde again, or not a final, a second, with a third happening in February with Mars conjunct. So it's this really interesting, I'm looking to the myth of Persephone for all of this. And we can think about Persephone as just what has been told to us. Persephone was raped, although do remember that the ancient Greek word for rape actually meant to be taken or to be grabbed, which is what we believed happened. So she was kept away from the world by her mother Demeter. So she's the goddess of spring, and her mother kept her away from the world, kept her sequestered, refused hands of marriage for her. So she didn't really know men. She didn't really know relationships. And so she was definitely this Venus as the evening star, not really knowing or understanding much about the world and her place in it. But through the process of being kidnapped, dragged down to the underworld, and then eating the pomegranate seeds, she ends up being this powerful queen of the underworld. And this is because she was the one that made the choice. So as she was underneath, the ancient, so many of the ancient cultures saw this time in the sky, her retrograde period, when she literally disappears from view from behind the sun. So if you look right now, you'll see Venus very bright in the evening sky, but it will disappear from view around the 20th of December and won't be seen again until midway through January. So the ancients really believe that this was a sacred time of turning inwards, of turning away from actually relating with others and coming back into ourselves and our value systems, reassessing who, what, and why we enter any kind of partnership, any kind of relationship, and also our relationship to beauty too. So when Persephone did this, when she was taken down into the underworld, she reevaluated her own values. Did she want to live by her mother's value systems? Did she want to live by Zeus's value systems, or even Hades, Pluto, any of these? So when she emerged and when the choice was given to her, because finally she was the one that took the choice, and this is what Pluto does, it empowers us to go forward in our own lives, to claim what we need, what we want, but only by looking at what's hidden, looking at what's underneath, looking at our grief, our pain, our loss, and really understanding how much that's shaped us. And it's through the challenges of facing that we become empowered. Because when we look at these spaces, we know and understand our own resilience and our own ability and our own self-worth within all of this as well. So, when she came back up, she was empowered. And this will link up with her cycle in the sky of coming out as the morning star. Now, Venus as the morning star is a lot more independent and a lot more about what she wants, what's necessary for her. I always think this about the more experienced lover who's willing to speak out to her partner and say, this is what I need. This is what fulfills my desires. Let's try this together. And this is what Persephone did. She came out as this very strong, she was the queen of the underworld, the goddess of spring, and she was the goddess of fertility as well, and the blessed dead. And she was revered by the ancient Greeks as the protector of wives and mature women too. So it all links up and dovetails so beautifully with this. And I just think, we can't forget that Persephone had a temper. She was the mistress of the Furies. And if someone wronged her, or if she didn't see that things were done in a just way, which is very linked to the underworld, then she would unleash these demons, the Furies, to make things better or make things right. And she could definitely be revengeful. Next time you look at a mint plant, think about the poor nymph that Persephone turned into a mint plant because she tried to seduce her husband Hades. So she definitely had this side of her where she could do the plutonic anger and rage and obsession. So this is all part of it as well. And I think, on this day specifically, you will strongly get a feeling of what role is power playing in your relationships? Where do you feel like you don't have enough, or are you recognizing you have too much and you need to be bringing things back to balance, or being really careful with things? It may be a day where you feel a bit obsessed by things, a bit compulsive about things. It really reminds me of when I was a teenager, boy bands or interests, or specifically things about love and beauty, those things that we just became so obsessed about. And I think what we'll see over this cycle is almost that growing up, that maturation, where we come out the other side and think, oh, wow, what was it about that thing that I was obsessed by? Or it just doesn't play as big a role in my life anymore. And I think it will be because we realize it doesn't align to our value systems, and when I'm talking about value systems, I'm talking about how do you live life in terms of your yes, what you say yes to, and what you say no to. And where does the more flexible in between lie? But this is that sense of what's your moral code? What's your ethical standards? What line will you not go below? And this is what you will be exploring really over the next 100, well, not quite 100 days. It's actually 60 days. 60 days that we're in, 70 days as we go through until that February period where Venus finally comes back to this point in the sky, this 26 degrees of Capricorn, as she unearths and digs through all of this. So the next of these Venus conjuncting Pluto is happening on Christmas Day as well. So just be aware, is this about who you're going to spend Christmas with or that holiday period with if you're not someone who celebrates Christmas? And remember, all of this is going on in Capricorn, and Venus in Capricorn is very much about our value systems and also likes to look at the past. Venus in Capricorn is very goal orientated and ambitious. And I find Venus in Capricorn really loves to live her work, what she likes to do. So many of my clients and friends who have this are fantastic with this. I also find that, with Venus in Capricorn and traditions, we may be re-examining the traditions that are important to us and reevaluating whether or not they actually bring us any joy anymore. Is it time to let go of the old and start the new? I also think it's going to be around the structures and hierarchies in our world too, and those things that have been dragged from us, those things that we're looking at going, does that fit anymore? Actually, Pluto, this feels a bit toxic to me. These relationships, these people I'm choosing to spend this time with don't align with me anymore. Or if I'm still choosing to do it, I'm going to engage in a different way. I'm not going to put all of my power in their laps, or I'm not going to put all of myself in this place. So just look ahead over the next fortnight, especially to see how this plays out for you. Also happening on Sunday is a gentle sextile, literally just a couple of hours later. So this is at 5:24 a.m. here in Brisbane. And I think it will be very overshadowed by the Venus in Pluto. But for those who have mutable charts, especially, you may feel this. It's just a optimistic thoughts, the ability to plan big. And it's one of the last touches to Jupiter as well, especially it's the last touch to Jupiter in Aquarius from Mercury. So it's an opportunity to take the last squeezes through of Jupiter in Aquarius and what we've been creating in this area of our lives, but through Mercury style activities. So maybe conversations that you're having, things that you're writing about, even things that relate to commerce or learning. You might take one more bite of that Jupiter in Aquarius apple to make the most of it. But yeah, listen out for the Mercury messages at this time. So as we keep swinging through this Sunday, yes, it keeps on rolling. The moon moves into Aries at 7:46 a.m. And this will dry things out, but the dreams definitely continue because 4:21 p.m. on Sunday afternoon, so this will be Sunday for most of the world, we have the sun square to Neptune. And it is a day of tension between the truths in our lives and whether the truths that we are dreaming of are the truths that we're passionate about. This is a lot about finding and seeking purpose. And it is a search of truth for self, but it's understanding that the truth for us isn't necessarily the truth for everybody else. We all have such different perspectives on the one situation. Nobody ever sees it the same way. So if things are feeling fogged or dazed, just let that be. It doesn't have to be totally clear to everybody involved. I often find as well that Neptune transits are we're just wandering in the mists in many ways. And we may feel frustrated with this sun in Sagittarius trying to clear things through, trying to forge a path ahead towards some kind of mission or some kind of adventure. But I think that these are adventures of the imagination that are going on in this day. So it's definitely, harks back to, it continues the energy of the moon in Pisces in many ways of it is just definitely a day that we will want to float, we will want to dream, and just head off on adventures within a fantasy of many ways. So just know that it is fantastical, whatever is potentially happening. So next thing on Monday, we have what I think is really exciting, even though, of course, I love Mars in Scorpio in its own territory. But at 7:52 p.m. here in Brisbane, we have Mars moving from Scorpio up into Sagittarius. So coming out of the waters of Scorpio, which it rules, but it's this deep, intense place. I always think of Mars in Scorpio like the ninja or the assassin that moves through the nights and feeling the pressure to make things right or clean things up. But come into Sagittarius and its focus goes up to the heavens, and it's so much more excited about fighting for truth or seeking justice or activating freedom. And it's doesn't have a lot of dignity in Sagittarius, but in general, it's just happy to be in a fire sign where its energy of moving, of energizing, of activating can happen a lot more easily. It's an opportunity to really follow our passion in something and to move and get active. Sagittarius rules the thighs, those major muscles that help us in our locomotion. So it is a chance to go hiking, to get outdoors, to be adventurous however you can. Yes, I know that many places in the world are deep in winter right now, but for us in Australia, we definitely can do it. So make any opportunities that you can. You may be called to find some kind of higher mission to throw this Mars energy into. Mars is here until the 24th of January. So all through this period with the Venus retrograde, most of it, we have this fiery Mars that will keep us moving forwards. And I would say in this period of time, one of the things about Sagittarius, it's a teacher, it's a preacher, and it can be very much about over preaching or pushing our opinions forward too much. Mars can put that a little bit too much passion and a bit too much fire into this energy. So watch and see whether or not your opinion or your viewpoint is really needed in a certain situation. There will be a big shift in this period of time as Mars travels through here as well, because the ruler, Jupiter, will change signs. So it starts off with Mars in Aquarius and a lot more about higher issues, about ethics and standards, and just doing things in a different and unusual way. Whereas when Jupiter moves into Pisces on that 28th, 29th of December, it's a lot more watery. It's a lot more about dreams, about faith, about beliefs. And I think this will really shift how Mars travels, what it aims towards in this period of time. So to be aware of that change in energy then too. So next day, we have another sign change happening as Mercury moves into steady, practical Capricorn. And Mercury is a lot happier in Capricorn than it is in Sagittarius. The very logical, very rational Mercury is able to do its thinking so well. It's definitely a slower paced energy. This is the earth sign, and earth is a melancholic temperament. So it can be where we're just overthinking or overanalyzing things, really getting into our brain a little bit too much to try to work things out. Is that logical? Is that rational? As against being able to follow our heart with things. So just be aware that our thinking may get a little bit fixed or a little bit stuck in this period of time. But, we're eminently pitched towards thinking about what's practical and what's successful. And you may find that this Mercury traveling through Capricorn is really good for thinking about where you want to go in 2022, what plans you want to make, what strategies you're going to put in place towards success, what ambitions you have, what are you holding in your heart. Now, as I mentioned before, with the Venus retrograde, this area of our charts, have a look at the area that Capricorn lies, the house that it's in your chart, if you know how to do that, and discover that this Mercury is really highlighting what's going to be happening with over this period of time. Mercury will retrograde back into Capricorn as well in February. So there'll be quite a lot happening and quite a lot of focus here, especially around that period of time towards the end of January, beginning of February, when Venus will be highlighting Mercury be highlighting that area where Venus will have traveled through now, and Venus will be stationing to go direct. So yeah, lots to think about here. And just really look at how Mercury is bringing you the messages of this area over the next 3 weeks as it continues to travel through Capricorn. It's letting you know this is what needs to be worked on. You can't keep sweeping this under the carpet. The moon, as you can see as well, it's not far from moving into Taurus. It will move into Taurus that evening. So this really adds to that kind of feedback on the earth, coming back into our bodies, feeling of this focus on the earth signs. So from here, Wednesday's no major transits, but coming into Thursday very early in the morning here in Australia at least. So this will be Wednesday for much of the world. So it's at 6:12 a.m. We do have Mars conjuncting the South Node in Sagittarius, and this hasn't happened yet. Mars conjuncts this point every 2 years, and this is an opportunity right at the end of this, the nodes moving through Gemini and Sagittarius, to have one final purge, one final release, one final push away. I kind of think it's about taking out the rubbish of what we've been exploring with the South Node in this area of our charts. It's that catharsis of bin nights, where you clear out the fridge, or the council pickup nights, as we call them here in Australia, where all the stuff that's been collected and is cluttering can be let go of. Happening in Sagittarius, this is very much around our belief systems, our faith systems, our opinions, and what doesn't fit anymore. Where have we been clinging on to something? Where is it a chance to finally let go? I think it's quite a nice way to also get active spiritually in this. The South Node's quite a spiritual point. It's not going to be high energy, that's for sure. And especially those who have Aries rising or Scorpio rising or strong energy in those signs, you may definitely have depleted energy on these days. So be prepared for that. But, a gentle yoga practice to get you into before a meditative practice, or even a walking meditation, or some kind of sacred dance, or even a martial arts, where the end point isn't the fitness and the exercise. The end point is to getting you into a connection with something higher, but it is that active energy of bringing your whole body along. And it's definitely not a day to be taking risks. It's a low ebb energy day for all of us. So as we head further away from this, we don't really have much more happening until we get to that beautiful, exciting full moon in Gemini. So it's happening at exactly 2:35 p.m. I am going to get that timing up as I do this, because I want to point out some of the nice aspects that this is making. So the first exciting thing about this is that this is the first Gemini lunation that we've had that isn't an eclipse. Yes, the nodes are still in those signs, but they're so far away here that they're right at the other end of the signs. This is an opportunity for just to enjoy a strong Gemini lunation. Get into the fun, get into the social aspects of it, get into the playfulness, the lighthearted curiosity of this. I always call this like the Peter Pan energy of where we flit from one thing to another. So you may be really seeking under this full moon lots of information, and especially because it does the moon forms a beautiful trine to Jupiter in Aquarius, and the sun is in this sextile energy here as well. So it amps up our feelings of joy and beneficence, and especially when it comes to the mental realms, because this is Jupiter in an air sign, the moon in an air sign. So it's that opportunity. You may just be super excited to connect with people that you haven't in a while. So a great day to be doing anything social, whether it's a party or getting out and about, might be going to Christmas carols on this day or something like that. But yeah, really, really make the most of the lightness of this day. And also a good opportunity to reflect as well on all that Jupiter in Aquarius has grown and developed in this very ingenious, innovative, and experimental sign. This will continue as well past this full moon, as on Monday at 10:31 a.m., the sun will come and exactly sextile this too. So do get ready to really reap the source of the riches of whatever Jupiter has been getting into in Aquarius. I know we're all excited about Jupiter in Pisces, but let's not forget about, what it's brought in this particular area of our chart. And especially for those of you with the fixed signs that has seen so much energy this year, have a look at where, there's been blessings and be grateful for them in amongst the tension that's also been going, because this will be moving off axis from your angles into the year ahead, into the next few weeks and in 2022. So from here, after this lovely light full moon, we have Venus that same day, as you can already see, stationing retrograde. So it's happening, it becomes exact at 8:35 p.m. I'm not going to go further into this because I already discussed it earlier, but as you can see, it's happening here, so close to Pluto. And then we'll come back and on Christmas Day make that next conjunction there as Venus starts to pick up speed going backwards. So I might do an extra video on this about Venus retrograde, but we'll see. So from here, we're moving into that Monday energy, as I mentioned, the boldness and the confidence, with a little bit of effort under a sextile, the sun sextiling Jupiter, a lot can be done. So, you take one step and your opportunities or luck or hope will meet you, take 10 steps forward to rush and meet you. So do make the most of this just general uplift and feeling good about things. So then on the 22nd, we have Mercury making a trine to Uranus. And I love this energy. It's just so bold and innovative and exciting. And it helps us have these kind of new and radical thoughts or experimental ideas, either think outside the box and look at things from a totally different perspective. Our minds may be quite busy. This definitely ratchets things up. So do expect, the clocks to be spinning very fast. And it could end up where we're just getting busy around things. This is that lead up to Christmas for those who celebrate. So we may be racing around doing those last minute holiday things. I would say it'll be a little bit dampened because it's in the earth signs. And the opportunity here, or the tip here, is to make lists. If you're running around doing your holiday shopping, then make lists of what you need to do or where you need to be, so you can tick that off, so you're not just getting spun out into the chaos of what the potential is here. You may find it's a bit hard to sleep under this energy as well, especially those of you that have strong mercurial charts, so Gemini or Virgo rising, or strong energy in either of those signs. So this could be making sure that you have opportunity to do some meditation or some mindfulness, or make sure you take any supplements that help you with any nervousness or anxiety that you may have. Next off, beyond this, we have the solstice happening. So the sun moving into Capricorn, bringing even more emphasis to this area of our chart. The solstice is such a wonderful time of year, the December solstice here in the Southern Hemisphere. It's our summer solstice. And in the Northern Hemisphere, it's winter. The word solstice means sun's pause, and it's literally where the sun hangs in the sky as it pendulums, as it's the furthest point of its pendulum, swings between the north and the south. So it hanging over the Tropic of Capricorn here in Australia, it's making its furthest travel south, and it sits there, and it's a day to take pause. So have a look at whatever celebrations you're doing. This may be that day where you're celebrating just sitting still, just taking time out. Perhaps this is after the craziness of the day before with that Mercury trine to Uranus, where you're ready to just take a pause, take a chill, and be prepared for where we're going next with this, especially with that Venus retrograde in this area. I think there's very much a pull in whatever this area is to go inwards, to take time out, to connect to what is sacred within. You do remember, yes, Capricorn is about ambition. It's about drive. It's about, climbing those mountains and getting to our highest heights. And it's great at managing things as well. But it's also the mystical sea goat that's very connected to ancient energies. I always talk about this as Gandalf energy or Galadriel energy for those that are Lord of the Ring fans like I am. It's something that it has very ancient power and knowledge, and because of that has a lot of caution and a lot of patience for what can show up. It's amazing actually how many spiritual leaders have strong Capricorn in their charts. So it could be where you are wanting to penetrate the sacred mysteries of life or the ancient mysteries of life, but patiently, quietly, and by going into those inner spaces. I do find the energy really shifts just before this. So this is the 21st of December in so many places in the world. It's very early in the morning here in Australia. It happens at 1:59 a.m. So you may find even on that Tuesday night before you go to bed, for many of us, or even at some stage on Wednesday, just finding time to meditate, to think, to dwell, to pause on where to from here. What has this whole year meant, this final solstice that's connected to? And remember, really, this is what Christmas is about. It has co-opted so many of the different ancient traditions that happened around this period of time, depending on which area in the world as to what was celebrated. So do enjoy this. Take your time with this and see if you can find a little bit of quiet inner stillness in amongst the chaos that this time of year can feel. So from here, we head on into Christmas Eve. And this is the final for the year of the squares between Saturn and Uranus. Or Uranus. So as you can see here, it's happening at 11 degrees of the fixed signs. There is another one happening at 18 degrees of the signs next year too. So it isn't the final. But this is this energy is definitely moving away for now. And it's what's been highlighted so strongly through all of the fixed sun seasons this year, that late January, early February this year, the early July and even early August with Leo season, and then the more recent Scorpio season, where you may have been stuck between a rock and a hard place, or having to make really tough decisions about what you will keep of the old and where you want to bring in the new, the exciting, or just to be authentic. So some of the tips I would say about reflecting on this energy and using this energy going forwards, it's working out where you can have freedom, Uranus, as well as responsibility. Because really, freedom without responsibility is anarchy, and responsibility without freedom is totalitarianism. So it's that sense of, okay, where do I need both? Where can I balance them both out? Where am I stuck with something and I need to agitate to create some cracks of light? And where am I perhaps just creating change for change's sake, rebelling, and therefore I need to anchor myself a little bit more? Also getting really realistic and putting in place long-term strategies for the change that we want to create. That Saturn energy is fantastic when it's harnessed well, especially Saturn in Aquarius, which modern astrology sees Uranus ruling. So there is this thing about doing things in a new and different way, but in a way that's sustainable and stable and grounded. And then finally, I do think that this combination can help us stay anchored in the unknown. So many of us are feeling spun off or dispersed because of how much change is happening socially right now. but it's coming into those places in ourselves that, Saturn in Aquarius, those ethical standards, those beliefs that we have that we will not shift from, are telling us a lot about what is our anchor and how that can help us when the winds of change are buffeting us back and forward. So this is it. Wishing you all a wonderful holiday season. I will be back. I'll be dropping another video on Christmas Eve for that fortnight ahead, that will capture that last week of the year and into the first week of 2022. And I wish you all the best.